There she is. They need a different voice for that. It's really kind of muffled. But okay, welcome to our session on breakout rooms. We'll be focusing on the features of breakout rooms throughout the session. And like the other sessions that I've been with you in, I can't show you the process for this because it makes those tools invisible to the people who are looking at my screen when I do that. So I'll again be doing this through screenshots. It's pretty straightforward though. And I'll take you through the process of how to set up breakout rooms on the fly and how you can set up breakout rooms ahead of time, okay? So, and the different ways in which you can set up your breakout rooms ahead of time. And that's always a big question. So, first of all, sorry, I always forget this part. Please make note of, oh, hold on, give me 1 second. Please make note of today's session. There's no PD enroller number, but the date, the amount of time we spent here, the title of the course that I taught it, and then you'll add that into Skyward when your Skyward PD time is loaded in mid-endish of September. So that's the date range I've been given at this time. So this does count for Tech PD. This does count for self-directed PD. Okay, I am going to start. Phyllis, I haven't posted the last ones yet. I've been really busy and I haven't had a chance to put those up yet. So I'm getting there. I'm working on it. And I'm working on putting these into safe schools. I'm going to try and put these into safe schools where we do what every employee needs to know, because if they're in safe schools, then we can start using these to count for paid PD time, because there's an accountability piece with that right now. If you look at it in the just that Zoom webpage on our teacher toolbox area, those are just recordings you can watch to go back over again, but those right now don't count for PD time. So we're going to put these in a place that will, and that'll be good for the teachers who can't make these sessions. Okay, if you're curious about I'm going to start my screen sharing now. So give me 1 second to get everything set back up again. And my chat, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or drop it in the chat. And if any of you can answer the chat questions before I have a chance to get to them, go for it. I love a collaborative session where we're all helping each other out. So we'll go that route. Okay, so I always start here, and I'm sure a bunch of you have seen this a whole bunch of times, but this is our My OSD portal, lots of stuff here, but this is the Zoom link that you can use to log into Zoom. Also, the distance learning toolbox is in the middle of the page. If you click on this, you get to the calendar that I'm sure you already have used to get here today. But I do like to point out that under video tools here and under Zoom is more information about Zoom. And this is where I have been putting those recordings from previous sessions. So these are from last spring. I need to put the other ones up, but these are there for reference. A couple of other things to point out. I won't go like I did in the last session, but there's a link here if you want to self-explore how to connect your document camera to Zoom. And this link here is a document that if you wanted to send it home, we'll put this in a resource center for parents too, but this is a document for families to help get their students connected to your Zoom sessions if they have trouble, okay? All righty, let's talk about breakout rooms. All right. This one's pretty straightforward, but the very first thing I have to note with this one is that only the host, not the co-host, but only the host has the ability to do breakout rooms in your session, okay? So the breakout room button in your toolbar looks like this, and it says this, and again, you have to be the host to be able to do this. If you are unable to manage your breakout rooms, like you have to go do something else or you have to leave, transfer host to somebody else. And when you transfer host to somebody else, now they can do the breakout rooms. And then they can transfer it back to that. Whoever is host, the breakout rooms goes with that person. It is a limitation because it would be nice if you could have a co-host help manage the breakout rooms and move people around and do that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't work that way. When you click the breakout rooms button, it's much like the participants window or chat. This one always is a floating window. It pops up a floating window for your breakout rooms. If you close that window and you click breakout rooms again, it just pops it right back up again. And it saves the stuff that where you're at. But if you haven't set any breakout rooms up ahead of time, when you click this button, the first thing you are going to see is a window that says you have X number of participants, and I suggest, or Zoom suggests, that you break them into this many rooms. It doesn't matter what it suggests. You can do whatever you want. You can say more or less using the arrow. And as you adjust the number of rooms, it tells you the average number of participants it would be per room. You're not stuck to this. It's not saying you have to do this, but it's just saying if you broke it evenly, this would be about how many people would be in each room, okay? Your other options here are whether you want to send those participants automatically or manually to the rooms. How do you want to assign those? Now, if I'm thinking back to my days as a 6th grade teacher, I typically was not just randomly assigning all of my students to groups. I put a little bit of thought into who should be together in a small group, and I'm sure you do the same. Other times, totally random makes sense. That's your options. Automatically is a random breakup of the participants in your session into breakout rooms. Manual means you do it yourself. Now, the question that always comes here is, if I do it automatically, can I make tweaks to it to make sure that certain students aren't together? And the answer is yes, and I'll show that to you in a little bit, okay? But the process I'm going to take you through is the manual process. Automatic is easy. It just goes, it sticks them in there, and then you can skip a bunch of steps here. But manual is the way you can do this piece by piece. So when you select the number of rooms that you want and you select the style that you want, you click Create Breakout Rooms. When you click this button, the students are not going to breakout rooms. It's just going to make the groups. It's going to kind of show you what the groups look like. And it will look like this. Because I chose manual, you don't see any students in the breakout rooms yet. What you see are the 4 rooms that I said I wanted. And then you have some options over here. So it just says breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4. You have some options for renaming, deleting, and then assigning students in that space. Before we get to that, there are options across the bottom that I want to point out, and these are really important. The options area here, and if you've ever called the help desk, there's a small picture of Doug Bogdan, who probably answered the phone, is a submenu that you need to make some conscious decisions about depending on how you want your breakout room to operate, okay? So the first one is move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. Have all of you been in a breakout room before? I'm seeing nods because I usually send people to breakout rooms, but at this point in time, I'm not, because I pretty much figure everyone's been in a breakout room at this point in time. So if you have this box checked to move all participants into breakout rooms automatically, the second you open the rooms, it pushes those people into their assigned spaces. If you do not have this box checked, a message will pop up on the student screen that says the host is inviting you to go to your breakout room, and then they click the button to consciously choose to go to that breakout room. Your choice, however you want to do that. It could be a situation where you're saying, when you're ready, go to your breakout room. You know, when you've completed this thing, go to your breakout room. In other cases, you could say, we're all going right now, and you don't have a choice. You're just going. So that's your choice here. The next one is allow participants to return to the main session at any time. So right now, we're in the main session. And if you have this box checked, a student could say, I want to leave my breakout room and go back to the main session. I don't know why they would want to do that. They might have a question for you, but I'll kind of talk around that in just a second. If somebody ends up back in the main session and you are the host, you will get a notification in your breakout rooms window, or you'll get a notification on the breakout rooms button saying, like if one person is back in the main session, it will say you have one person back in the main session or one person that's unassigned, giving you the alert that you need to deal with that as the host. You can just assign that person to a breakout room, even if you are in one of the breakout rooms, okay? So just keep an eye on that. If you don't want them to be able to leave their sessions, uncheck that box. If you have a co-host, do you have to assign them to a breakout room? Yes. Again, the host is the only person who can manage the breakout rooms, and the host is the only person who can freely move around the breakout rooms, Not even the co-hosts can self-select the spaces they want to go. So just be aware. Okay, the third option is an automated timer. So do you want the breakout rooms to close after so much time has passed? And you can set that time here. And then if you do check this, is a box that says notify me when time is up. I highly recommend, if you're using this timer, have this box on, because, and if you were in any of the AFCPC meetings this summer, especially with me, we put timers on the rooms. And the second that we got the notification, it said, your room timer basically is about done. Do you want to close the rooms or leave them open? And if you choose to leave them open, it just takes the timer off and it makes you close the rooms manually. Okay, why is that important? Because you may need to give more time to the people in your breakout rooms. A good discussion is happening, and they just need more time to go through whatever it is you've asked them to do. So having a timer is not a bad idea. Again, you are not bound to the time. You can turn the timer off essentially while the breakout rooms are progressing. Okay? Now, once the breakout rooms are closed or are closing, you can set another timer. So this one says 15 seconds. You can set that to 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, like 2 minutes, things like that. 15 seconds seems like, okay, if the room's closing 15, why would we leave it open longer than it needs to? This is your wrap up your conversation warning timer, okay? And 15 seconds is way too short of time. So for all of our AFCPC meetings, we were setting this for a minute, and even that was too short, because when I was in the main session, people were coming back to the main session mid-sentence, trying to get all of their words in edgewise. And it's a good thing to have this here, just kind of has a wrap up. Okay. The next button over is the recreate button. This is the, I want to blow this whole thing up and start it all over again, or I have done the breakout rooms already and I want to do breakout rooms again, but I don't want the same breakout rooms. I want to reorganize my students or have a different number of breakout rooms or something like that. So when you click recreate, it just takes you back up to step one and it says, how many rooms do you want? Do you want to do it automatically or manually? Okay, so that's the recreate button. When you go back into the breakout rooms window, you do have the option to delete a room if you have one too many or you just want to get rid of it. So you just hit delete and confirm. You can also click on the pencil by rename and it pops up in a window and it grants you the ability to name a group differently than just the generic breakout room 1, 2, 3. So you could call them whatever you want to. It's your choice. And then finally, we'll get to how you assign. So when you mouse over a particular breakout room and you click the assign link, it will open up a list of all of the people that are in your session, okay? And all you have to do is start checking the box by those people's names and it assigns them to that breakout room. And then when you're done with that, you don't have to click save or anything. You just click on assign on the next one and you start clicking through the people that are there. Now, as we look at this picture here, you can see people are in here. And the reason I have this up is to show you that as you assign people to groups, as you move through to the next group, it takes them out of the available list. So you don't have to remember who you've already assigned to a breakout room. It culls that list for you as you move forward, which is kind of nice, okay? I don't know how Sam logged into this meeting 4 times, but he did. So there you go. That's Sam. Sam is one of our developers. Okay, when you have everybody assigned to a breakout room, you click the button then that says open all rooms, and now the breakout rooms will go. So now if you have it set that they automatically go, all of your students will go to their breakout rooms. If you don't, they'll get the invitation to go. But that's this button here. So once the rooms are going, you as the host, you don't go to a room, you stay in the main session, okay? And you have your breakout room window open. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Kristen, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, So your breakout in progress, and it even says breakout rooms in progress, your window is open and it shows you the students who are in that group. If a student were to leave and come back to the main session, their name grays out. They'll still be assigned to that room, but they're grayed out, indicating they're not actually in that room. And that's important to note because you, as the host, have a couple of different options here. The first one, I should change the order of this, is broadcast a message to all. If you click that, you can just broadcast a message out to everybody and it just goes in a green banner across the top. So you can say 2 minutes, or I'm extending our time by 5 minutes, or I'm going to bring you all back now, or whatever it is. But this is just a general announcement. Okay. Tanya, question?
I tried the manual assign last spring, and I had this problem where like I didn't really front load the kids and tell them to click join, or I didn't know there was the option to force them into breakout rooms. And I had a few kids that pressed the wrong button and pressed the X. And so they were stuck in the main room with me, and I couldn't work out how to get them into a breakout room.
You had already assigned them, right?
I believe I had assigned them to a breakout room already, but they pressed X instead of join, like in the top right-hand corner. And then I couldn't figure out how to move.
Right. So that's a tricky thing that you can't, as far as I can tell, you can't force it at that point in time. They would still show up in the breakout room as a grayed out, hasn't joined yet. And then there's a button on their screen that they have to click to then join that group.
So for younger kids, it's probably better to like do the force into the breakout room. Like
I would. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple questions have come to me for those of you who are asking, can you set up the same breakout rooms over and over again? And the answer is yes. And I'll talk about that at the end. Okay. So again, there is a broadcast option here. This is not an interactive option. It's just simply a broadcast. People can't respond to this. However, you as the host, and this is the tricky thing. This question always comes up in this session. Am I allowed to send my students off to breakout rooms without me? Comes up a lot. If you do that in your class already, if it's something you're already doing, you send a group of kids out in the hall, do what you do. But I recommend a good classroom management technique where, just like in your physical space, you are moving around between the students and making, kind of checking on progress with all those groups often. Do the same thing here. You as the teacher move around to the breakout rooms frequently, so you're checking in on them as they're going too. And if you have a para or you have a co-host, you can work with those people. You're playing more of a manager role at that point in time and moving them around, but you can do that too. And as the host, how you do that is through the join button. Okay, so you can click join and you can jump into a breakout room with those people. It'll say, do you want to join, yes or no? Additionally, if you have a para or you have a co-host, or you just need to move kids around, you have an option next to their name that says move to, and if you click move to, it tells you the other breakout rooms that are there, and you can just automatically shuffle them off to that breakout room. Okay, so those are just a couple moving technique things. So again, as the host, you just click join and you can jump into the breakout rooms, and then you can leave the breakout rooms. So here, if you're the host, it says leave. You can also join other breakout rooms without having to leave and go back to the main session. But as the host, that's your kind of right to move around the different breakout rooms. One of the questions that comes up often is, can you as the host share something to all of the breakout rooms? The answer is no, you cannot. And you cannot see all of the breakout rooms at once right now. I submitted that to Zoom as a feature enhancement, that we have the ability to have a bird's eye view, at least see what's on the screens in the breakout rooms. So we'll see if they ever get around to doing that. Okay, when you are finished with the breakout room time, if you're doing it manually, you have a button that says close all rooms. You click this, and then that kicks off your final timer that says the room is going to close in whatever amount of time you set that as. Okay, so that is kind of start to finish how you do breakout rooms on the fly. Now, a couple of questions have been coming in. If a student is kicked off of Zoom due to Wi-Fi reasons when in a breakout room, when they return to the main session, they go back to, okay. So what Joan is asking is, you've got your students in breakout rooms and a student gets disconnected for whatever the reason is, and then they reconnect to come back. They will come back into the main session, but if they are coming back in and Zoom recognizes them as the person who left, it will still have them assigned to the breakout room, and they will have a button to join that breakout room, and they can go back then. You can't force them. They'll be in that main session though. I have seen it though, where people have gotten disconnected and they've reconnected and Zoom thinks it's a different session or different person with the same name, and you just have to assign them to a breakout room at that point in time. I've seen it both ways. Okay, the two questions related to can you set up the same breakout rooms over and over? I'm going to address those when we talk about how we pre-assign breakout rooms before the meeting even begins. Okay? Yes, Brad, you will be a full participation member if you join a breakout room with the students. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my Zoom page, my Zoom settings. So this is my meetings tab. This is you can see this, right? We're good here? Okay. So I'll use just this meeting as an example. I set this as a example one for something else. So I am in my meeting setup here. And if you are going to use breakout rooms in a meeting, you have to have the breakout room setting turned on in your settings. And if you want to pre-assign your breakout rooms, when you're in your meeting edit mode, there is a box under meeting options for breakout room pre-assign, okay? So if you check that box, you then get a couple of different options down here. Option one is to create the rooms right here, or option two is to import them from a CSV. If you're not familiar with the three-letter CSV, that is a generic spreadsheet file, okay? You may be thinking Excel. Excel is actually proprietary. Microsoft owns that name. So CSV is a generic spreadsheet file type. I can help you with this if this is something you want to do, but I will also talk through the warnings and dangers of this, okay? What I will show you more is the create rooms portion here. If you click this link, it will pop open a window and it will say, you have 0 rooms, 0 participants, and it says assign participants to breakout rooms. You can have up to 50 rooms, and you can assign up to a total of 200 participants to those breakout rooms. Okay, so 200 people total can go into the 50 breakout rooms max. Now, if you're doing this more or less manually, over here on the room side, you see this little plus button, and if you click this plus button, it just makes a breakout room. Click it again, makes another breakout room, so on and so forth. You'll note that the top one is still highlighted. It's in blue and it's loaded over here on the side. If I wanted the second one, I just click it. It loads it over here. If I mouse over it and I don't want this room anymore, I can click on the garbage can and it goes away. If I click on a breakout room and I don't want it to be called breakout room 1 anymore, if I go to the right side, just to the right of the name is a little pencil. If I click that, I can then change the name of this group. Okay, and you'll now see, I just clicked over here anywhere, and you'll see now that the name has changed. And this is a really simple way to set up your groups ahead of time. Maybe not necessarily add the participants to the group, but you can at least have your groups built and ready to go. And there's a reason why I don't necessarily recommend that you try to pre-assign the students ahead of time, because you may not get all of your kids in your class in your Zoom session that day. So you may end up with a breakout room that's got 1 kid in it and another breakout room that's full. And now you're having to shift around again. It really doesn't take that much time to manually assign the kids to the breakout rooms. It's pretty fast. But again, you may choose to have this in place. And here you can add participants. Now, this is something that is very important. If you choose to go this route where you try to pre-assign your students into your groups, you pretty much have to have this setting on that only authenticated users can join, okay? And it needs to be set for staff and students. With this setting in place, it forces your students to log in with their OSD Zoom account. And that forces their email, their student email, to come through when they log into your session. And the reason that's important is when you pre-assign users to your group, it does it by email address. So if you do not have this authentication setting on, people will join with whatever account was logged into Zoom last, which could be a sibling, parent, personal account, no account, whatever it is. And if it's not the correct account that you assign to your pre-assigned group, they will not be pre-assigned to your group. We did this once with a meeting of 120 people, and we pre-assigned all 120 people. And because we had community members, we had to leave this off. And I would say maybe 10% of the people landed in their groups appropriately. And then we just had to go through and do it manually anyway. So again, if you're going to pre-assign, make sure you have this turned on and that it's set for staff and students. And I know for the younger kids, this is really hard. This is difficult because to do this, they have to make sure they're logged into their Zoom accounts by going through the portal. And that's a couple of steps that the parents need to help out with. So that's why I just caution adding students to this early, okay? But let's say that you want to go that route, and that's totally fine. You can totally do that. You can, just like in Gmail, start typing in a student's name. Somebody give me a student name. Anybody? Okay,
Jerome.
Don't everybody speak at once.
Bob.
Did you say Bob? Okay. Well, like Nancy put in the chat, Leah Major. I'm assuming that's your child. So I'll go that route. Leah Major. So you can start typing in the names. And if they have an account in our Zoom environment, they will show up here. Okay, so I can say Leah Major, and then you will see that student's email address as pre-assigned to your session, okay? The problem with this is we have to mix all the staff and students. So as you're typing your way through it, you'll see staff members and students, but you can go that route. Again, it's all dependent upon the email address, okay? So let's say that I'm good with this. I've done this. I've saved this. When I start my meeting, what you can rest assured will occur is that the meeting rooms or the groups that you have built will be established. And the best hope is that the students will already be assigned to them. Hope. Okay, so just exercise some caution with that second piece. Now, coming back to the question of can you have this set up over and over again? Yes, there's a couple of different ways to do that. If you want to go from the import from a CSV way, it's a spreadsheet file that you could build in Google Spreadsheets or Google Sheets if you want, and just use that over and over again. You just save that as a CSV file and you just upload it over and over and over again. Potentially an easier way to do this is once your meeting is set, you save it, and then you save this as a meeting template. Okay, so if we save this as a meeting template, and then you go to make a new meeting, and from that new meeting, we are going to use a template. It didn't do it. I would think that it should bring it in, but it didn't. Okay, well, I was wrong. Sorry. The way you'd have to do that then is to do the CSV pre-assign, and I can help you with that at a different time if that's a route you want to go. But if you're having classes of students around 25, it's really not hard to do it manually. Dallas is asking a question, if a kid can alter their name if you did authenticated login, and the answer is only if you allow it. Remember that setting that allows them to change their name? That would allow them to change their name. Otherwise, they're stuck with what they come in as. Caitlin, the thing that worked yesterday was a poll. If you saved a poll and then you made a template, that poll would be there on that new meeting. I thought the breakout room would be the same, but apparently not. Okay, we are right at 30 minutes, and now is a great time for questions.
Mark, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I know how to do this. If I have a para in my class and I want to do a breakout room with myself leading one and the para leading another. Now, I don't care how the students would be arranged. I just want to make sure that the two adults are spread between the two. Then how would I set that up?
So when you do your breakout room setup, and even if you did it automatically, it would take whatever co-host you have and just automatically put it in one of those rooms. If you had two paras or two co-hosts and they ended up in the same space, I'll show you. When you're in your setup, even before you open the rooms, let's say that Dave Baird and Dave Eilers were the two co-hosts and they needed to not be in the same room together. You can use this exchange button. And if you do an exchange button, you say, I want you to exchange places with this person here, and it flip-flops them between the rooms. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
So Mark, this is Nancy, I'm gonna piggyback on that. So it would automatically assign my para to one room, and then I would just join the room that didn't have a grown-up. I would not be assigned to one, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Other questions?
What's district policy about breakout rooms without adults in them? If I'm the only host and I've got 3 breakout rooms, is that okay to just bounce and
Use your professional judgment. I know a lot of rumors flew around last year about what you had to have in a Zoom session. Like I know there was a rumor that flew around that said it didn't matter what Zoom session, you had to have 2 adults in it. That was one that went around, and that's not necessarily the case. If you are using breakout rooms and in your rooms, if you send a group of kids out into the hall, technically they're not being supervised either. Again, use your teacher powers, move around your room like you would virtually as you would physically, and just don't leave the students over there for a long time unsupervised. Be popping in and out and, checking in on them so that they know at least you could come in at any time. So just use your best judgment.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
So last year when I was doing breakout rooms, one of the struggles I noticed was like if a kid got kicked out or their internet dropped or something, or if somebody was coming in late, they would be put in my waiting room and I wouldn't notice that right away because the little drop down from the top of the screen isn't always there. So they may have been waiting for I don't know how long. Do you know if there's a better way to make sure those kids who are waiting in that waiting room aren't just sitting there and I can get them in quicker?
2 things with that.
Okay.
Number one, Zoom has made a change so that if you have people that are sitting in a waiting room, in your toolbar on the participants button, you will get a red badge with the number of people that are sitting in the waiting room. So that at least kind of alerts you to, if you don't have the participants window open, at least there's something that you need to go look at there. Or if you are in a breakout room and students are back in the main session, you'll get a red badge with a number on the breakout rooms button. Now, secondly, in your I need to share, sorry. If you're in your settings, everybody can see my page, right? Okay. If you go into your Zoom, your own personal Zoom account, and you go to your settings, right at the very top is the waiting room, and under waiting rooms, options, edit options, and customize waiting room. If you go to customize waiting room, you can actually put a picture in your waiting room if you want to. You can put a logo in there, and you can put a waiting room description in there. And when it says description, that just means you can type whatever you want. And how I've seen people use this is it says, if you've been waiting for X number of minutes, contact me this way, whether it's a phone number, an email address, or whatever it is. It's just some instructions of what to do if you think I have missed you. I've seen people do that before. If you don't want your own phone number on there, it could be call the front office and have them let me know that I'm waiting to get in or something like that.
With that, Mark, with that little feature that you're showing, I mean, you could create a slide that has kind of like class expectations, right? Or like
this
you
is
could
just a picture. You can put whatever you want in here.
Yeah, you could make like a Google slide and create your objectives for the day, and then that's going to be in the waiting room when students are logging in. So that's the first thing they see.
That's
Is
a
that
really
right?
good idea, actually.
Okay. I was
Way to
just
go.
thinking, I was trying to think about like I've been to a couple of Zoom theater things because like the world is that we're living in. But one of the things that they do is they have like a pre-show playlist. So I wasn't sure if it was a waiting room function or is it a function of the meeting. I think it's a function of the meeting, but they have
Yeah,
like,
they have a shared screen going. The
Yeah.
second that you enter that space is
Mhm.
something else people do. But this is really designed just to be like a little headshot or a logo or could be.
but
your
that's
schools.
awesome. Like you could
Yeah.
really use that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Okay.
Okay, a couple things in the chat. Or you could turn off your waiting room. Yep. So just turn off your waiting room once your meeting's going so you don't miss kids who are in the waiting room. Yep. Okay. Any other questions?
Mark, I have a question, but it's specific to equipment that I'd like everyone else leaves.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can talk after.
Perfect.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I would strongly encourage folks to go enjoy the sunshine and make note of our session, title, date. We've been on for an hour or not an hour. Jeez. I don't know how long we've been on. Whatever the time is. I can't do math in my head right now. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I'll talk to y'all later. I'll have more sessions up next week.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
This is Sarah. So I know that when I've been in the district meetings and you, when you're like leaving the breakout rooms, it gives you like two choices. And one was like leave, and then there was another choice. And I know if you hit the wrong one, it totally kicked you out of Zoom.
If you are the host and there are still people in your session when you hit the end button, because if you're the host, you're the end, it will say end meeting for all or assign new host.
Right.
And then you can assign a new host so that the meeting doesn't close and it lets people continue even though you have left.
So I'm talking about on the participant end. So like,
yeah. So if you are leaving a breakout room,
yes,
like you're choosing to leave the breakout room before it's being closed for you, and you say leave breakout room, it gives you the two options to leave the meeting or leave the breakout room.
Okay. So which one do you do to get back to the whole Zoom?
Whichever one doesn't say leave meeting.
Okay.
I can't visualize it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, just don't do the one that says leave meeting. And I think that one's in red. Like
Okay.
that's in red indicating you're going to leave the whole thing.
Okay. Thank you.